Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Forbidden Land podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, someone who's assisted me in many murders across the state, Wesley. He's covering his face so I can do the intro without feeling any pressure.
No guilt. They deserved it.
You know, before I changed the name of this podcast, it was even worse. I wouldn't even say it alone. It was called the Operation 18 podcast.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
What does Forbidden Land mean?
That one was just
Why are we here?
I thought it sounded cool. But the old name,
That's how I came up with bands when I was younger.
God, did you ever do that thing where you and your friends would mash random words together to make song names or band names that you knew you were probably never going to use, but you'd write them down anyway?
Yeah, in a couple of different bands, we would just make nonsense names. One of the first bands I was ever in, we used a band name generator.
Yeah.
And used that for our name. We tried to come up with like a bullshit story of like, oh no, this is what it means. It's like, no, it was a band name generator.
That goes hard though. It's like Tool.
Yeah, like the band was called Scarred First Class.
Oh.
And I'm like, we tried to come up with some BS story of like, oh, well, like it sounds like it's military, and my dad was military, so we were like, oh yeah, no, it was just a band name generator we found in what 2007.
When I was when I was learning to be an audio engineer, we would like sit around after class was over and just start firing off names. And one of them I used for a song title, Gelatinous Mass.
I like that. Gelatinous Mass.
We had Triangular Palm Tree or something like that. It was really
that sounds like a band name. Like
it's nice.
Like an indie ass band name.
I forgot what the other ones were. 'Cause I probably don't have them written down anymore, but I've used a few of them, but Gelatinous Mass was the one that always stuck with me. Because I think we were going to name a band that, and then during the pandemic, I was like, well, I have this song, and it goes kind of hard. I'm going to name it Gelatinous Mass.
Gelatinous Mass. I've been recently working on some new music, and I have a song that has like a really stupid song title. And it's one that Megan inspired.
What is it called?
It's called Ice Bridges Before Road.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, so we have this habit when we're in the car, and we'll just like whoever's in the passenger seat usually, we'll just start reading road signs.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a couple of people with ADHD, and we're just like, hey, that sign says no parking.
I kind of love that.
Just going down the road, and then one of those like bridge ices before road, like warning signs on the highway. Megan read it as ice bridges before road. And I thought it was hilarious. So
I like that name.
She's not too enthused on the song title, but I think it's funny. I showed it to my buddy Tree, and they were like, "What in the hot mulligan is this shit?"
I like that. We have we came up with a bunch of them, and I had to like ask for permission. I was like, I know we came up with these, but can I use this? It was Singular Palm Tree and Mom's Casserole, and that's what I ended up using for two of my songs.
Mom's Casserole.
That one was
that just sounds like a Mom Jeans
song. That's the only song I've ever made where I'm the one playing guitar.
Nice.
All the other ones with guitar were my friend playing. But yeah, I missed that about that class, was us just sitting in circles shooting off names. Yeah, because I remember where I was when Gelatinous Mass was come up with. My friend was in the storage closet, and he yelled it across the room. And we were like, that's perfect. But I don't.
You know what's sorry, I just had this thought like how many times we've hung out recently. I don't think we've ever actually talked music.
Yeah, we hardly do. I think the most we've
Yeah.
talked about is that sheet that you took a picture of for me.
Yeah, it's like I know that you do. I know that you're a musician. I don't think we've ever actually talked music, and it's been a while since I've been able to talk music with anybody.
We
So,
It is so
yeah.
funny you mentioned that because I was asked like, "Oh, what are y'all going to talk about?" And I went, "Well, the only thing I really wrote down was like video games." And where he goes, "What about music?" I was like, "Why have I not written down anything about music?"
Never fucking talked about it.
We have a musician.
Literally our defining personality trait. But we're like, no, I don't want to talk about myself.
Yeah, 2 engineers, 2 musicians, like, and then we never talk about music.
I think the reason why I never want to talk about it is just because I'm a cynical 30-year-old now.
Well, it's been so long since I've been an actual audio engineer actively working consistently that I just don't talk about it very much.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't really even consider myself an audio engineer anymore. I used to, but I don't consider myself that anymore.
Yeah.
The only real like work that I have done, like paid work that I did for another person was a band called Atlas of the Dogs.
Ooh.
I mixed and mastered their first EP
Yeah.
album EP. But that was fun, but that was like the only real work that I ever did.
Yeah.
And then other than that, I've just done my stuff. I think I did some work for my buddy Tree. Like we did like a duet. And then they released it under their band Uneasy.
Nice.
But yeah, other than that I don't consider myself an audio engineer because even though I recorded a lot and mixed and mastered a lot, I don't feel comfortable calling myself an audio engineer because one, it doesn't sound professional. If you're it's like I don't know how I got paid for what I delivered. Because sometimes I'm not even happy with my own shit. So I'm like, you know what? They were willing to pay me, so thank you guys. They were my friends. I was happy to. They kind of got me through some rent.
Yeah, I've referred to myself as an audio tech sometimes, because I've never been paid for any work I've ever done as an audio engineer. Like if I ever call myself that, I'm usually like I'm a trained audio engineer, but I don't work in any of those fields. But anytime I have, it's always been for free. Like, I don't think I've ever been paid a dime. I've been paid in food, which like I like that, but I've never been paid any money for it. I've mixed a lot of stuff. I've helped people record stuff and mix stuff. I don't think I've mastered anything really, other than my own things. But I used to do live sound for a church. Like I used to be the sound engineer for a church, and then I've mixed stuff for friends as favors, but I've never asked them to pay me for it. So I've never been paid for any of it. Like,
nice.
yeah.
And I mean, it is difficult work. At least,
yeah.
I thought it was extremely difficult. I worked hard, even though I wasn't really happy with the result. But you know, like I don't know, I find it fun. I started mostly because I went to college for audio engineering, and my main goal was just to learn how to record myself so that I could record demos and stuff. Which I mean, task achieved. I learned enough to be able to record myself, but like I don't know, I never just got over that last hurdle of really properly learning how to mix and master. Even though like I've had extra time, but I've just never put in the put in that
Well,
effort. I've had other shit that I've been
we're the
focusing on.
well, we're
Life
perfect
stuff.
because I'm great at mixing and I'm not very good at recording, and so it's perfect.
Hell, we should collab, bro.
If you ask me to remember any miking techniques, I remember like 3 out of like the 12 I learned when I was in school. Like I don't remember
yeah.
anything about that. I know how to mic up a guitar, a vocalist, and a drum kit. That's it. I forgot everything else. Like
But the mixing and mastering side, that's where you're more
I l-
comfortable with.
I
Just
love
like
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so
Hell, I should
before
send some of my shit to you.
I'll do
We
it.
should. Yeah.
Before so in high school, I used to be bused to a trade school that did college level audio engineering courses. So by the time I graduated, I would have known more than second year audio engineering students. And we had like super expensive equipment to work with and all that stuff. But before I started that, I was an editor. So I used to edit videos and I took film courses. So with the editor mindset, mixing is the same thing, just using your ears. And so I love it. I love tweaking things. I love EQing stuff. It's like one of my favorite things to do. There's a song we did where we recorded an acoustic guitar and we did multiple recordings of it. And then I mixed it in a way where it sounded like there was an electric guitar with like a really grungy sound on it in the background. It's the same acoustic guitar track, just with so much stuff packed into it that it sounded completely different.
Yeah.
It's like one of
fun
my
to mess with shit like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite things to do is just tweaking with things after the fact. Yeah, because my friend was like, take these courses, you might like them. It'll help with your film stuff. I will never call myself an editor. I always relate to the audio stuff more now. But it was fun when I did it at that school. I did it for 3 years.
Nice.
And I worked for almost a full year at that church before the pandemic started.
Yeah, I went to college for 3 years. I studied audio engineering. I completed the program,
Yeah.
but I never got the certificate because it was like I still had like general ed requirements
Oh, yeah.
that I had to fulfill, and then I ended up dropping out of college because of just life, early
Yeah.
20s.
But hey, you got
working
that knowledge,
full-time.
you know?
Yeah. But yeah, that was the main purpose of my wanting to take those classes, was to learn to record myself, and did that, and I've put out, was it 2 albums and an EP?
Yeah.
I just finished recording another EP, and now I'm in the mixing phase.
I mean,
This
yeah,
is the
you
most
know.
annoying part about it, but
Well,
what do you use? What DAW do you use?
so I was trained to use Pro Tools, and so I do sort of like Pro Tools. I've used Studio One before. I've gotten so janky with it. I've mixed in Adobe Premiere. Anytime I've told people this, they look horrified. But Adobe Premiere has such good audio plugins that it's possible. A lot of my music has been mixed in Adobe Premiere when I don't have access to other tools. If I'm not using Premiere, then I'm using Studio One or Pro Tools.
I've never used Studio One. My main tool has been Reason.
Ooh, I've heard of Reason. I was told to use Reason by a friend of mine.
Propellerhead Reason is like a Swedish company, I think.
Yeah.
I learned how to use it in college because like the main thing that we were trained on was Pro Tools, and then we briefly touched on like, oh, there are other DAWs like
Yeah.
there's logic, but we didn't touch logic at all. And then they were like, there's also, actually no, we did touch logic briefly. It was like 1 week course on
I want to
logic.
try logic so bad.
I don't remember anything about it. But then I just remember it being kind of complicated, and I didn't really care for that because I don't have the patience. So then then I saw we learned reason, which is at the time it didn't really have the recording. It could record, but it didn't have as much capability. Now,
Yeah.
granted, this was like back in like 2012.
Yeah.
2013. So didn't really have as much capability back then, but it was still really good, and it was more just like MIDI based. There was like the main reason they taught us how to use it. It was because you could get a lot of good MIDI in Reason, and then through some other VTS plugins and routing and shit, work it into Pro Tools.
Yeah.
And then use it as like I don't know. But a couple, I don't know, years later, when I started like looking into buying a DAW, Pro Tools was just like so goddamn expensive.
I know. Yeah.
And I was looking into alternatives, and Reason was relatively cheap.
Yeah.
And I was looking into it, and I'm like, you know what? It looks like they've upgraded their shit. Like, it had all the modern capabilities of a DAW,
Yeah.
and then it just, I don't know. It just, their plugins look different. It's now like it's a rack instead of just loadable plugins.
Yeah, I've
It looks more like a physical rack.
I actually really like that because I've worked with actual like patch racks and stuff.
Yeah,
I call them
and
patch
that's
bays.
how I originally learned my first year of college.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of neat seeing that. I wasn't too strong on that section, but it is kind of neat seeing it.
Yeah,
But other than that, it's like it's a good capable DAW now. Like they have a subscription service because of course.
yeah, I've seen.
And yeah,
I've seen a
It's
lot
not
of
bad,
DAWs. Like Pro Tools is somewhat affordable now with the subscription, but
I
you
didn't know
have
they had a
to.
subscription now.
They do, but you have to still buy the iLock for it, and it's like I don't think they even offer perpetual license. If they do, it's like $1,000. My friend Luke, which he's in a band called Yosemite in Black. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They've been blowing up a lot recently.
I've personally never heard of it, but
So he's a metal artist, and he uses Reaper, and I think Reaper's free.
yeah, I've heard of. I heard about Reaper in college. There was a guy I went to college with who swore by it and did some pretty decent work
Yeah.
with it. But yeah, like Reaper does some pretty good stuff. I've tried it. It's open source,
Yeah.
so it comes with that open source jank.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. We're recording this on an open source program called OBS, so I'm well too familiar with
OBS,
that.
so yeah, OBS has its own jank.
Yeah,
but I mean, OBS is widely used.
You know when you update
Reaper
and it breaks half the
used
features?
by a lot of people too. So
yeah. You know when you update OBS and it breaks half your plugins and then you have to redo them and
I don't have any plugins on OBS. Whenever I've streamed on OBS, I have just some like very basic things I've routed through it, and then yeah.
Yeah, I have a multi-streaming plugin that it bricks every update and I have to fix it. But so Luke used to ride for Reaper, and then I've tried FL Studio a little bit for producing, and it's such a learning curve for me. I don't know what it is. I thought I had tried it before. Bless you. Bless you. I had whoa. You all right?
I sneeze like a dad. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Remember the Discord compression thing? That Discord compression thing we were talking about just smushed it all out of the audio. So
Nice.
it basically wasn't even there. But um, before I started learning audio stuff, I tried FL Studio and I thought, oh, this is so complicated. I don't have the attention span for this. And I thought not that long ago, I was like, oh, well, now that I know what I'm doing, like, let me try it out again. It's still like there's some part of it that I'm struggling with, but I managed to make a song with it. So I think we're getting somewhere.
Nice.
Um, that one's tricky, but I do like Pro Tools and Studio One. Studio One reminded me of a story. I had to do a location shoot with the church. They wanted to record some Christmas skit, and they needed a boom operator. And we were trained to carry around those packs on us that record it to an SD card from the boom pole.
Mm-hmm.
And they did not have this. They had a boom mic and a boom pole for it. They did not have the pack, so I had to haul around like this old laptop with a 2007 version of Studio One on it around this entire house. And at one point I was like, hold on, I'm waiting to hit record. It's loading. And they were like, what do you mean? I was like, this laptop is older than like most kids that are going to watch this. You got to give me a minute. And that whole day I was like, I wish I had just brought my own equipment. The problem though is that I had only like kind of known how to use it.
Do it yourself.
Yeah, but with that equipment, like unfortunately, I wasn't very trained in it. The real stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't one of the interns that was trained very well in it. So I was like flying blind pretty much. Where I was like, I guess they're gonna have a laptop for me to hit record on. It was so weird. And we had like this 30-foot XLR that I would drag around with me around the house. But yeah, God, I forgot I even did that. That was such a weird time. The kind of jobs I would accept.
Man.
And then I never got to watch the video. I don't think they ever aired it.
That's sad.
Yeah, it was like some Christmas special that they did. I forgot the plot of it now, but she made us monkey bread and everything. It was really cool. But yeah, we never got to watch it, I don't think. If they did air it, it was during Christmas when I wasn't there. But
speaking of something that I was a part of but never actually saw, that just reminded me.
yeah.
When I was like 18 or 19, I was an extra in a movie.
Oh.
Yeah. It was a movie called No Parking. I had the poster for it. Some indie film. I don't even remember how I got involved in this, but it was me and the girl I was dating at the time. We went. We were told to show up at this pizzeria in downtown Roseville, California.
Yeah.
We were told to show up at this pizzeria, and so we showed up. And yeah, like, so we were just we weren't paid, but we had to sign this waiver that basically was just like our payment, quote unquote payment, was the free food and drinks
That's funny.
that we were getting, because it was like this scene of these. I can't remember the plot of the movie, but I think it was like these two elderly guys going on like a road trip.
Yeah.
And they're just like one last road trip or something, and they're at this this bar slash pizzeria, and they're having this argument, and we're like, I'm just eating pizza and having a cocktail, quote unquote, but literally it was just like a I think it was like a Shirley Temple or something.
Yeah.
And I'm just drinking and eating pizza in the background of this movie. And I remember we were supposed to get tickets to go see the launch or the preview of this movie before it hit like just I don't know. I think it had like a select few theaters it was hitting. I never got updated on it.
Did you ever get to see this movie?
No, I had I brought home a poster from when we were filming, and I gave them my contact information. Like, we both gave them our contact information, and we waited and waited. Never. Apparently, the movie did come out.
I wonder if
think
it
it
wonder if it made any
I don't know.
money.
Don't know. But I'm in the background of some movie.
It might be lost media at this point.
I don't know, but I would love to see it. I would love to see this indie movie that I'm in, and I got free food in. I've always wondered.
It's like when I find YouTube videos that have me in them that I forgot I was in. It's like that. That's what it's like. One day you're gonna be on YouTube and the movie's gonna be on there. You'll be like, oh yeah, let me check this out. Oh, that's funny. I love those projects that you will help out on and then you never see them. You never know what happens to them. It's like,
yeah.
I was involved in a fair few projects in high school that just never saw the light of day, and I don't know what happened to them. I don't know who has a copy of it. There's a few mixing projects that went nowhere. There's a few editing projects that I worked on that went nowhere.
There was a group of people that I hung out with in college that we would like. It was like the audio engineering like group.
Yeah.
We would all hang out in college, and so we would like after class we would all go to this guy's apartment. This guy Tim. We would all go to his apartment, and even like people like from the recording, like the recording half of the building and the music department was in the same building.
Yeah.
So it was all we would all talk, we would all work together, and then we would all go to this guy's apartment and just record whatever the hell. Whoever wanted to record that night, like we would all be drinking, smoking weed, just I don't know, just hanging out and recording music. And that was a fun thing to be a part of. I never really like got to see how any of those projects that I was involved in got to, if they ever became anything.
Yeah.
Because at the time, my ex, the person that I was with before, I started dating her, and she didn't like them. She didn't like my college friends.
Yeah.
And so I suddenly was like kind of drifting away from that college group. And
Yeah.
I regret letting that happen. That was so like it was some of the
Yeah.
most fun times I've ever had as a musician, just like hanging out with this group of people, making music, and just I don't know, making music, making memories. One night we destroyed a piano. That was like a legendary moment of my college years.
Destroying a piano.
Yeah. So this buddy of mine, like, it was always the same dude at his apartment. He was moving apartments, but it's this guy Tim.
Yeah.
He was moving apartments, and he couldn't bring his piano with him. This piano was ancient. And like, yeah, it would have been cool to try to preserve it.
Yeah.
But this piano was in such bad condition. It was literally wobbly. This piano was falling apart. Like any attempt to move it from anyone who wasn't a experienced professional
Yeah.
would end up in disaster. Either way, would end up with the piano's destruction. So, and Tim couldn't afford that. We were
Yeah.
all broke early 20s kids. I think at that time I was 20 years old.
Oh,
And
wow.
my buddy Tim was probably like maybe like 24, 25. But we were all broke, young and broke, so he couldn't afford that shit. So we were like, all right, we're gonna just get fucking slammed. We're gonna get fucking hammered and just destroy this piano. And his poor downstairs neighbors must have hated us.
Wait, he had downstairs neighbors and y'all destroyed this piano?
This is what being a stupid 20-year-old does to you.
That changes the whole story. That there were people around y'all hearing this go down.
The apartment complex that he lived in was a really like kind of shitty apartment complex. Like it was usually pretty loud late into the night.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like out of the ordinary, but he did have downstairs neighbors.
That's insane. Destroying a piano with neighbors.
Yeah.
Not just destroying something, destroying an instrument, which is gonna make
destroying
piano
a
sounds.
piano. One of the loudest instruments to have in a small apartment complex.
That has to be the most cartoonish sounding destruction.
Oh,
Like-
it was great.
The most like Looney Tunes sounding.
I think I still have some video on my Instagram archive. Just buried in my Instagram from that night of us destroying a piano. It was great.
The stuff.
The
The stuff we would get up to at night.
stupid things you do in college. Man, college was was fun up until I had to drop out.
Yeah.
I was more pressured to drop out. I was actually doing pretty good up until someone made me drop out of college. But that's a whole other story. I won't trauma dump on your fucking podcast.
It's your story. I mean,
yeah, I remember in college we used to in like the audio department we used to have the audio and music department we would have poker nights, like full on illegal gambling nights.
I was gonna say,
illegal gambling rings.
yeah,
It
we
was
used to go down.
Like 20 to 30 people would all arrange to go to a certain house. It would usually change, but someone's apartment, someone's house, 20 to 30 people. Each of us would throw in like 10 to 20 bucks.
That's awesome.
And last man standing.
We
We're all playing poker. Last man standing. Like there was one night where actually all 30 people that we had like that would participate, almost all 30 people showed up. And we first separated into three tables of 10. Those games lasted for like a few hours, and then we
Wow.
all like narrowed it down to one table, and then it was like 3 or 4 in the morning and it was down to me and one dude. His name was Robert or something. I can't remember his last name at all, but like we got down to like, yeah, it was just me and him. The pot was like a total of like maybe $200.
Yeah. Oh my god. Wow.
Yeah. It was like a good amount of people showed up to this night. And so we were, it was like, yeah, 3 or 4 in the morning. We stopped drinking even like a couple hours before because we were like, it is so late.
Yeah.
And at that point, we were just like, we are so tired and we're finally sober enough to drive.
Maybe. Legally,
Sort of.
officer, legally.
Yeah. We're like, okay, me and you, let's just split the pot and go home. I walked away with like $100 that night.
Oh, that's awesome. We used
In this
to
illegal poker ring amongst a bunch of audio engineering students.
in high school, GTA
Fun.
5 introduced gambling into the
Nice.
online service, so you could go to the casino and play like blackjack and stuff.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I
Yeah.
loved that.
And you can bet
I
on
did
horse
play around that
races.
time.
Yeah. And we used to do it all the time, and then it seeped into real life where we wouldn't bet money because we didn't want to get expelled. But we would bet like stuff that we owned and play blackjack at school. Like, we were like, well, this
Dude, I
seems
love
kind of
blackjack.
fun. Yeah, like now
Blackjack
I know
is my shit.
now I know how to play blackjack because of GTA 5, and which I'm sure Rockstar does not want to hear me say that. That 16-year-old me would go to school and play
Hey,
blackjack.
the liability is on your parents. They
Hey.
agreed to let their minor child play a rated M video game.
They had no idea
They accepted the responsibility, man.
of letting me have the computer.
When you're a parent, you gotta be observant. You gotta know what the fuck you're getting into.
It's just funny. I don't think I ever lost anything playing blackjack, but I know some friends that had to give up some pretty valuable stuff.
Nice.
But it was just funny.
I learned how to play blackjack from fucking Fallout New Vegas.
we knew, because I was like one of those big nerds that like I read the student handbook. Like, who does that? But I was like, hey, just so you know, there is a
Only us
clause.
nerds.
Yeah, I was like, just so you know, I think I was just bored and I was reading the book because it wasn't that long. And I was like, hey, there is a section on gambling. As long as we don't gamble money, we're good. And we were all like, okay.
Gambling possessions.
Yeah, like,
Oh, dude, when I was in elementary school, so this was like kindergarten to 3rd grade.
Yeah.
I went to an elementary school in Yuma, Arizona. And every year there was a different game that I swear entire crime rings. This was like the playground at this elementary school. The playground at Valley Horizon Elementary School in Yuma, Arizona.
Call
the
them out.
playground there, calling them out. The playground at that elementary school was like child gang central. There were child gangs.
That's awesome.
I was involved in a group every single year. Like there were groups and like cliques in the playground that would compete in these different games, and we would bet. There was like actual money on the line, like money from lunches. We had like a school lunch system where it's like your parents would like prepay for like a week worth of lunches, and then like you would get like a card for the week, and they would snip off a section of the card or like punch out a section of the card for every week. So it'd be like we would gamble prepaying lunches because they would like the lunch ladies would allow us to prepay for someone else's lunch, like, hey, take 2 out of my lunch card and I'm paying for my friend.
Wow.
So we would like real money was on the line. There was like possessions. Like one year it was like Yu-Gi-Oh battles, and so like people would like trade either money or Yu-Gi-Oh cards. There was one year that it was marbles, and people would bet not only marbles but lunch money. There was also like concessions that people would trade, and like just snacks and shit. There was like whole like organized rings around this shit. There was Beyblades one year.
Yeah. We used to do that.
Beyblades, marbles, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon,
We used to
You
do
name it.
we used to do Bakugans too.
Bakugan.
Like those little ball things.
Yeah.
We used to do those. Yeah. Oh my god, it's funny. Like y'all had gangs. We had like a soft version of that. Our school was like the kind of school where if you cursed, you'd get tattled on.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what was in the air at that school, but we were all like, "Oh, we're so nice," but we would definitely be like gambling Pokemon cards and stuff like that. Like we were we were definitely stealing each other's possessions and getting yelled at by our parents for why we didn't come home with the stuff that we were given.
Oh man.
Oh my god. So you hear that, GTA 5? I gambled in high school.
Man.
I just remembered what we were talking about earlier, the name of the podcast. Forbidden Land. You asked me what it means. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I just came up with it. And in fact, if you want to watch me in real time do that, there is an episode from last year where I renamed it in real time. Like, I was going through like a random name generator, and I was like, oh, I wonder if these could tip off any ideas. And I think the word forbidden came up, and that's where it came from. But I think, so the main drive behind changing the name was Rory being like, what the hell does the name of your podcast even mean? And I was like, I don't know. And it made me like self-conscious about it, and then I went, yeah, I probably should change the name.
Maybe you should do a thing where you like change it periodically. Like right now it's the Forbidden Land era.
Every
And
100
then your next
episodes.
era. It's like what was that? What was one of those names you came up with earlier? That like Mom's Casserole or something. This is the Mom's Casserole podcast.
So what's funny is this isn't the
You're gonna
only
go through your different Swift eras.
What's funny is that there's not just this podcast, there's the live version of it, which I think arguably has the better name, Forbidden FM. I think that one's better.
Yeah, that's a pretty dope name.
There's the live Twitch broadcast of this where I just do reruns called Forbidden TV.
Forbidden TV.
I think Forbidden FM is the best name. Forbidden TV is pretty good. And then Forbidden Land is like, sure. It works. Slap
maybe
podcast
just
on
like
the end
even
of it.
like maybe even just dropping the land, like the Forbidden Podcast. Is that a thing? I don't think I've ever heard of the Forbidden Podcast.
What did I call it?
It's got a ring to it.
I know the bonus episodes on Patreon are called Forbidden Bonus.
Yeah, I mean you got a theme.
Yeah.
Forbidden TV. Forbidden Bonus.
It's funny, like
Forbidden Live. I don't know what else you said.
Forbidden FM I think is probably the best name. That one I'm like,
that is a good one.
That one I'm like, I would do Forbidden FM episodes just so I had the name on the end of it. But that one was like, we originally had OTV, and then I never did a live broadcast under that name. Then we changed the name of the podcast entirely, and I was asking my friend John, who does the political episodes with me, I was like, what should I call the live version of this? And we were shooting off names, and that was what we came up with, was Forbidden FM. Just like a radio theme, even though it's a live broadcast on YouTube with a video attached to it.
I mean, that is a cool name.
I do like it. Maybe one day it'll replace this version of the podcast, but yeah,
I don't know. I think you got a pretty good theme there with the whole forbidden something. Forbidden FM is good.
I like
Forbidden
it.
TV is good.
I've never been good at coming up with names.
They're good names. That's a good name.
Yeah, I've never been. That's like one of the best names I've come up with. I've never been good at coming up with names. My YouTube name is just my first name.
Yeah.
So like, for a while it was my gamer tag, which I've been told and made fun of for is one of the worst names I could have chosen.
What is it?
It was Dane with then 5 numbers following it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
It's bad. Like, to me, it looks normal because it's my old in-game name.
Mm-hmm.
To everybody else, it's like, these numbers mean nothing.
Yeah.
I used to make a joke. It's not even a joke because it's true. My original name was Dane91787. So it had a little bit of symmetry to it, and I was able to explain what it meant. It was my lunch number at school. Well, when I was making my Minecraft account, my parents were like, you have to share this account with your sister. And I was like, oh, are you serious? So I ended it, instead of with a 7, it's ended with a 6 because that's her lunch number. And then it became my YouTube name, and it's permanently in my URL. So
That's funny.
there's like nothing I can do about it. It's
Dude.
permanently there.
That's really funny.
When they introduced the ats on YouTube, I was like, this is my chance, and I changed the name. So it's at Dane Makes Music now. A lot more simple.
I think my original YouTube name was just Westy Rose.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. You know, just make it your name, easy.
Yeah, it's just my name, my middle initial, Rose.
Plus, in the
And then
area
I
of
changed
the
it to Schitznachs. For a long time, it was just like Wesley Rose. I tried to promote music and stuff on it. There was like a brief period where I tried to do like gaming content, and every once in a while I'll stream if I'm feeling up to it.
yeah,
Which I don't know. I'm losing interest on that relatively quickly.
that's how I am
But-
too. Yeah,
Yeah, but now it's just Schitznachs because that's the username I use everywhere.
well, I feel like with it being your name, it's so normal. Like for the era
Yeah.
when you created the channel, it was so normal to make your username just your name.
Yeah,
So like, it makes sense.
I don't know. It's like Schitznachs is kind of my just like my internet lurking persona.
Yeah,
I'm trying my hardest to just like not be on the internet as much anymore. That's why like on my Instagram I not deleted, but I archived so much of my account and now it's just like basic stuff about like me or my music.
yeah. Dude, I
A
went
lot of
through
the gaming content I created, I scrubbed from the internet. I'm just like, like I don't really care about trying to become some content creator.
Yeah. I've been content. I did an episode where I talked about if I would retire doing gaming content because I've been doing YouTube since 2013 and the podcast is relatively new. Like the podcast itself is old, but the recent iteration of it is fairly new. It's only about 2 years old now.
Yeah.
But the
The idea of podcasts has always intrigued me. I listened to podcasts ever since I was a teenager,
yeah.
and I've always wanted to try doing one, but I've just never gotten around to it. I've been on a couple podcasts, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've been on one. That's not this one. I was interviewed by these people who interview film people, but they wanted to interview audio engineering people too.
Mm-hmm.
And it was homecoming week, so I was dressed like an old person.
Nice.
And they were like they want you to do an interview, and I was like, today in this outfit. And they were like, yeah. I had like
funny.
gray hair, all of it. I was wearing aviators. I was like, man, I am not in the shape. Thank God they weren't filming it. It was an audio only podcast.
Nice.
But still, like, I'm sure they saw me and were like, what the fuck? Like, why is this dude dressed like that? This podcast started during the podcast boom of 2017. Like, it was right around that time.
Nice.
Me and my friend were like, why don't we start one? We both have Blue Yetis. I've had this mic for 7.5 years now. And we got it so we could shoot a podcast. And then we dropped off making them after a couple years. This version of it was because I was like, I just need an outlet to project my thoughts. And this is the best format I can think of where it's not live, so I can't say anything without being able to edit it out. So this was the format I chose, but I had an episode where I talked about, like, I would give it till the end of this year, and if I've gotten no traction on any of my streams, I'm done. But I'll keep doing this. I was like, I enjoy doing this way more than I enjoy doing the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I think what it is, good.
I was gonna say, I feel a very similar way with like music and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy doing that more than I enjoy trying to do like gaming content.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm spending all this unnecessary energy doing this thing I don't really care about doing. Like I do love playing video games, but that's like a me time thing.
Yeah. Same.
And so it's like I want to keep my video games my me time. That's my that's my that's my form of personal entertainment.
Yeah, I do a live streamed Minecraft modded series, and I've said before during recordings, I do not play on there when I'm not on stream. When I start the stream, it's exactly where I left off before, because I cannot like bring myself to play it off stream. It's strictly for the stream. Like that's one of those things where I'm only doing it for stream, and that way I can do that on stream and then play like Once Human or something like that off stream and have my own thing. But like with like streaming games or recording video, like I don't record videos anymore for gaming, which is what I used to do. That used to be the thing I was good at, and then I stopped doing it. Streaming is like, I've done it for a couple of years now consistently, and I'm just kind of burned on it. And I think I like
the same.
Yeah, I think I like this because I grew up like watching The Daily Show and stuff like that. And even when I was a little kid, my parents used to be like, "What do you want to be as a when you grow up?" And I was like, "The weatherman." They like to make that joke now. And I think I just like being on camera, like talking. I think that's what it is. I think I like I think I've found my niche where I have gotten comfortable talking like politics and stuff on here. And so now I get like giddy to talk about it on here. Like when Biden dropped out, I was like excited to talk about it on here, which a year ago I would have been like, the podcast, I don't do that very often. Like I would have never reported on that a year ago. One of the first return episodes I did a couple years ago was a little political, and I was so nervous. And I almost didn't release it. Like I almost put it on Patreon only. The ones I don't want to publicly release in fear of like backlash, I put on Patreon. And that almost happened with that one. And then I was like, nah, it's not that bad. Let's release it. I say way more opinionated stuff on here now than I used to.
I get that. I get that nervousness. I struggle with putting my political views online as well.
Yeah.
I used to a lot more. I typically try to stray away from doing that, especially on like Instagram and stuff, because a lot of times when I do that, it comes from a more emotional response. Like I'll say something or I'll see something, it'll elicit an emotional response, and then I'll post about it on my story, and then it's just like this vicious cycle. And then like of me getting upset about something, someone responds to me, someone in my family who's like an ultra conservative who sees what I'm saying and doesn't agree with me, and then decides to clap back and start an argument, and then I'm just sucked into this fucking app all day arguing with someone.
Yeah, I used to be really bad about that. I had to start blocking people from viewing my story a while ago. It was like last year in November, I posted something where this dude slid up and called me an anti-Semite, and we went on this like 2-day long argument, and then he was like, he said something like horrible, and I was like, dude, that sounds a little racist. And he goes, "My adoptive father is black. I can't be racist." And I was like, "That's not how that works, buddy. Like you just pulled
that's not how that works.
I have a black friend card." And
Yeah.
that argument not only
I
made
voted
me
for Obama. I can't be racist.
right. That argument, not only did I block him from my story, it sparked this chain reaction of me talking about it on this podcast with my friend John. It was the first episode I brought him on for. And ever since then, it has opened the floodgates for what I'm willing to talk about on here. I would have never touched on something that hot on this podcast before that. And that just opened it up. I was like, here we go. Now I can talk about it. I got comfortable. And it was from that dude. So in a way, like, fuck him. He used to bully me when we were in elementary school. So extra fuck him. But
yeah, fuck him.
On top of that, I have to thank him.
Yeah, I am a lot more like honest about my political opinions now more than I used to be. I don't like go and parading it like I used to, but like I'm more honest about it if it comes up.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I feel like a lot of my sorry, I'm having a brain fart at the moment.
That's fine. I do it all the time on here. It took me till like episode 40 to start realizing I needed to write things down.
Yeah. I feel like I had a thought process. I swear to God, I had a thought process, and it just drifted away because of my fucking ADHD problems. But I don't know. I lost it. It's gone.
I used to be pretty withdrawn on my expressing my political views.
Yeah.
The only way I do it now is if somebody asks me what I think about something, I'll be fairly honest with them in a very light form. I don't go super dense with info because unlike them, I'm the one that's brain poisoned. So if I spit too much, they're gonna think I'm crazy. But that, or let's say something historic comes up and I know how it went down and I have like extra details that I know the average person doesn't have, I just start spitting. Mm-hmm. So like somebody brings up Ronald Reagan, I'll just throw in a little fun fact. I go, "Do you know he used to fill the black neighborhoods with crack?" And they'll go, "What?" And it opens this like huge conversation about the Reagan administration. It's so funny, and it's a kind of a sneaky but like unintentional way of bleeding my politics into people, because if you told people the history behind everything, way more people would be progressive and anti-war. Like that would just happen. Mm-hmm. And so it's really funny. I don't have to argue anything. If I just say what the history is, it speaks for itself. And I found that's a really useful tool to like get people on board. And it's not even intentional half the time. Half the time I'm just that like starved for a conversation that I'll go, "I know a lot about that thing from 50 years ago." And then I just start flooding out information. It's like, I will be the most annoying uncle.
Yeah. See, I don't know. I do try to, whenever I do end up going on a lot of like political rants, especially when we're at home, and like I don't know, Megan's parents usually will say something and it'll get me going on some kind of political rant. But mostly, like what annoys me about political conversations that I would have in the past as opposed to now, is before a lot of people I would talk with, it was more just based on identity politics.
Yeah.
It was, do you identify as a Democrat? Do you identify as a Republican? Well, here is textbook what the Republicans believe, and if you're against it, then you're a terrible person. Here's textbook definition of a Democrat, and if you're against it, you're a terrible person.
Yeah.
And then I'm sitting here looking at both of the political parties, going, I hate both of you.
Yeah. And you know what I
am like a textbook independent. I don't consider myself Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, progressive, whatever you want to call it. I don't consider myself any of it.
I would say no, go ahead. I know what you're saying though. I relate to that, yeah.
I hate this idea of identity politics.
Yeah. Yeah, I've
who's got the money? Who's taking that money? Yeah, who's got the money? Who's taking that money to leverage their power to get more money to leverage more power away from the middle and working class?
Yeah.
It's those people against the middle and working class.
I've always told people that
those are the parties.
Yeah, that Democrats and Republicans are the same coin, just two different sides of it. And
not even two sides. It's just like the same. Like
it's the same sphere. They
pretend to be two different sides. They pretend to be two different sides.
Yeah. Have you ever seen what the two major political parties look like on a European political scale?
No.
It's like ultra right wing and then like center right. Like those are the two political options we have in this country on a European time scale or a political scale. It's like
that makes a lot of sense.
It's like even the progressives in this country.
Wait, do you want fascism or do you want corporate oligarchy?
Yeah, do you want corpo fascism or do you want like full on authoritarian fascism? It's like those are your two options, and your other options are a lady who doesn't think nuclear power is a good idea, and then a dude who like thinks the vaccine will give you autism. So there's your options, and
yeah, the third party options aren't actually options. So
yeah,
there you go.
There's it's funny, like I've always told people that if you were to look at my views, I do closely resemble a progressive leftist. I don't really call myself that, but I would say that my views do reflect more accurately that way. There are some topics where I differ, like I'm not full on advocating for like communism. Like that's not, I don't go that far left. And I have friends that believe in communism, and I don't mind that. I have friends all over at least the left side of the political spectrum. I've found it very difficult to keep conservative friends because a lot of the time they will lean so far right that it becomes like they just don't like people like me. And it's like, I don't know how to be friends with that.
It's funny. So when it comes to that whole identity politics thing, I think the difference on the right when it comes to like the whole idea of like, oh, communism versus capitalism.
Yeah.
I think the reason why communism is so attractive to people is because we haven't seen a consumer-friendly version of capitalism.
Exactly.
I believe in like, okay, so this is kind of the only sort of, I guess, conservative view that I may have, quote unquote conservative view that I may have, is I believe in a consumer-friendly capitalism. I do believe in that. It's like capitalism does work when it's consumer oriented, not owner oriented, which is what we play under.
I think you would like my view on that, because I would consider a lot of my views somewhat socialist in nature, which is very different from communism, even though I know people like to lump them into the same camp. I'm a big believer of some capitalism with sprinkles and lots of seasoning of socialism involved. So I'm a big government regulation person, and I'm a big what's the word? It's when the workers own the business. Or that are just unionization efforts. I like those too.
Yeah, unionization is kind of like our way into that. I guess if it's like the workers owning the means of production, that's like
Yeah.
that's socialism.
It's like a co-op. It's like, yeah, it is pretty much socialism at its core, but I do like the idea of everyone having a say in the production and what happens to the profits. Because I've always said, like, there's that famous saying of, you can swap out the CEO and nothing will change, but it's not as easy to replace the laborers. It's like it's very like imbalanced in that way. I don't like the idea of one all-powerful being over the company. I love the idea of everyone working together in the company. But of course, like on a massive scale, that can produce issues. So that's where my views differ from I guess an average leftist is. I'm not super on board with large scale co-op businesses. I think it works its best when it's a small business.
Yeah.
I think unionization is the answer to bigger companies in that regard.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
I would say that's probably the best, in a way, like middle ground between full free market capitalism with no oversight and full on communism where we all live in communes and work hand in hand separate from a centralized system.
Yeah.
I do like the in between of the two. I think they would work pretty well. Let me go get healthcare, man. I just want to go to the doctor. Let me go to the doctor.
All I want from my politicians is to make the economy so I can go to make the economy well enough so that I can afford to go to the doctor. I can afford my own home, and I can afford my groceries and raise a family. That's all I fucking want.
Yeah.
It's not too much to fucking ask for. I want a basic life, and my government does not fucking give it to me, whether Democrat or Republican. Neither of them give a fuck about little old me, restaurant worker who makes pizzas for a living.
Yeah. I've had to do a lot of research on Kamala Harris because I've had the last 4 years to learn about Biden. I've only had the last 3 weeks to learn about the vice president. And I've learned that when she ran on Medicare for all. But now during her campaign speeches, she kind of hints more towards, and I don't like how the administration does this. They love bragging about the Affordable Care Act. And she leans more towards less of a single payer system and more of a Affordable Care Act revised type of system. And I just wish they would stop doing this, where they run on this and then they conservatize it as they get closer and closer to the presidency. And it's I know that she's just trying to keep consistent with the rest of the administration, because Pete Buttigieg was a big Medicare for all person, and now he also talks about the ACA like it's the golden ticket, and it's like, it's just government subsidized healthcare. It's not what we're actually asking for. It's
it's not a public option.
Yeah, it's like, here's a little bit of a discount on your already expensive health insurance.
Yeah. It's like what people want is a public option.
Yeah. And that doesn't
what most poor people want. I guess not all people want a public option. I think it's like the polls that I've seen, and like, obviously don't quote me on this. I'm going off the top of my head, but from memory of, I think it was on NPR, they were talking about like, it's like 60 to 70% of Americans want a public option. They want they want universal health care.
Yeah.
They want some sort of option for people who are in poverty. But the people who don't want it are the ultra wealthy. And the people who buy the propaganda.
I think what it is people that pay for their health insurance premiums, and they think they're getting quality medical care out of that. And they are like obsessed with keeping their doctor and all these things. I feel like it's all of that stuff that they've been told, like, oh, but your health insurance, the private sector is always going to be better than the public sector.
It's also a little bit of, I have to go through all of this shit, so why should it be easier for you?
It's like the student loan conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it
I
all
paid
ties
my
down to.
loans.
Yeah.
It's not fair
People
to me.
people love
Like,
meritocracy
okay.
here. But yeah, people love meritocracy in this country. It's fascinating. But anyway, yeah, I think this podcast is
Meritocracy
a
doesn't exist.
I think it doesn't. I think this podcast is a good vehicle for my political opinions. But
It is.
but yeah, I've been very public about not streaming after this year is over. So if it's just this channel posting stuff, that's why.
Yeah, I've kind of given up on the whole gaming streaming idea.
Yeah. I think what it is just like
I have a new obsessional idea.
I don't know. I've thought about taking this podcast on the road, like not like touring, but like setting up in weird spots and recording it remote. I've thought about doing that. Um, I've thought about
Fun.
I've thought about like occasionally just finding a studio space and doing it super professional for an episode, and then immediately reverting back to this setup for the next one. Just as like a little fun idea. The school I went to for audio engineering, I've visited since I've graduated, and they have a full-on podcast studio. They upgraded like their whole studio space.
Nice.
So now they can do the control room from a completely separate room instead of in a supply closet like they used to. And
That's cool.
the audio can also be done through Dante from a completely different building. So like they've upgraded the whole thing, and I'm like, I kind of want to ask them if I can use the space for an hour, and I might ask my friend who used to intern with me to come with me, and we'll shoot a podcast because I think that'd be kind of funny.
That'd be fun, yeah.
God, that'd be so interesting to try to do in a professional space. But it could be fun. I've never done a guest episode with someone in person. So, at least in this version of the podcast.
Well, if you want another guest to line up,
Come with. They have 4 mics at the table. Might as well.
you'll be good.
Pack the room. But yeah, that'd be cool. What this will be the last thing I'll probably ask before we end, but what equipment were y'all rocking with when you were learning how to record stuff? Like consoles and
college?
stuff? Yeah.
Oh, so the college I went to was American River College in Sacramento.
Yeah.
The audio program there is like the crown jewel of the college. So there, when I went there, obviously it's been like maybe 10 years since I've been.
Yeah.
But when I was there were 2 full studios in college, Studio A and Studio B. Studio A was the original one, and it was like, can't remember the model of the console, but it was this massive, like, legendary console. They had a lot of like incredible equipment, like multi-million dollar studios.
Yeah.
And Studio A was kind of like a smaller, normal sized studio for like, I don't know, recording small bands,
Yeah.
things like that. And then Studio B was like a larger, more production, like a larger production style studio.
Yeah.
And again, with an even bigger, fancier console, like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment all around you
Yeah.
at all times. Like 2 very carefully designed sound rooms, live sound rooms, control rooms, tons of like thousands of dollars worth of microphones and
Yeah.
instruments, and it was an insane way to learn, and I loved every second of it.
Did y'all ever
Again,
use a C414? I think it was a AKG mic.
I don't know. Probably.
We had like 2 of them, and someone dropped one once. They're like a $1,400 mic.
Oh man, I
Which,
remember when our professor showed us the most expensive mic he had in his closet, and it was this ribbon microphone.
oh,
None of us had the balls to pick it up.
yeah, because if you into it once, it's done.
Yeah,
It's
none of us had the
done.
balls to touch it.
Dude,
We were like, no.
someone almost put phantom power on one once, and I barely stopped them. I was like, whoa, 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 and they were like, what? I'm like, you're about to blow up that microphone. They were like, oh my god, I didn't know.
Good
like,
lord, buddy.
I'm like, why would they ever
You're
trust
about to
us?
take out a loan.
It's like, why would they ever trust us with these ribbon microphones? I don't get it. It was crazy. Oh man, having that expensive of a ribbon microphone seems like a risk.
Yeah.
That feels like a display case item.
He only brought it out for the 4th level recording class.
Ooh.
But I remember when we saw it. Yeah, we were
What brand was
too
it?
scared to touch it. I don't remember, man.
We had 2.
It was so long ago.
We had 2 Beyer microphones. I believe one of them was an M120 and another one was an M140. And the difference was just what polar pattern they were. So like one of them was bidirectional, the other one was a cardioid. But like we almost never used them because we used them for room mics sometimes, but they were just like there was never a good thing to use it on. And they were really small. I don't think we really used it that much. We had a tube microphone at one point where you'd have to like put on the power and wait like 30 minutes for it to warm up.
Mm-hmm.
We had one of those. We had.
Yeah. Well, I think I used one of those too in college. A tube mic.
They're fun. They're cool looking.
Yeah. Kind of impractical, to be honest.
They are. I mean, they got us some crispy vocals, but other than that, we really didn't use it that much.
Yeah.
And there was one time where someone left it on all weekend.
Oh.
Yeah, and they got like this close to being fired, and he was just like, you know what? It should only be a one-off. You know now.
Yeah.
It's your first time doing that mistake. We just got the mic. I get it. Don't do it again.
Yeah.
And I know towards the end we got 2 SM7Bs with cloud lifters for each. Because those mics are kind of quiet. And then we had an RE20 that I might have dropped and dented. Oops. Nobody knows that I'm the one who dropped it except for one person.
Oh no.
Unless they watch
the internet
this.
knows.
Yeah, unless they watch this. We had 2 or 3, I don't remember. I think it was just 2 AKG C414s with shock mounts. We had another Shure mic that I don't remember the name of. We had why am I forgetting the name? The mic you're using is a Shure, but it's
a Beta 58.
I was gonna ask if it was a Beta because it looks blue from where I'm at. And I know if they're blue, they're the Beta models. So it's an SM58, I believe, is the main model. This
is a Beta 58A.
Yeah. We had
which I've had this microphone since like 2008, 2007.
Oh wow. Yeah, those mics hold up.
These are some sturdy ass microphones. The blue the blue ring that goes around it is gone. Lost it many years ago. It's dented to hell and back.
Yeah.
It's seen many a show, but it is still holding up.
That's actually kind of
my main recording microphone is an MXL 990.
Ooh.
Cheap as fuck.
That sounds
But
neat.
it's kind of a harsh microphone, so I have to like EQ it pretty heavily. But it works.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
have a
I see it.
drum mic set that I've never actually fully used before.
Is
It's
it
a really
Shure?
cheap. No, it's a really cheap digital reference. So DRK 100.
Oh. Okay, 100.
Yeah, or DRK DRST. Um,
Oh, we did have it's
DRC
Behringer,
100.
right? Or is it something else?
No, it's digital reference.
Oh, we had the Behringer version of what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I've never used these. I think I've used one of the pencil microphones to record an acoustic one time. I bought these years ago. Never had an excuse to record
It's
a full drum kit, and it upsets me
it would
greatly.
be this, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's it. That's exactly what I have.
So these would be the two overheads, right? And then this would be the kick drum mic, and then it's weird that these are all the same. Or
Yeah,
the snare and the toms and everything.
yeah.
That's
It's very, very
odd.
basic. But I've never gotten the chance to use it. Feels like a waste of money to me.
We
I'm not a drummer, nor do I know a drummer.
we had a Sennheiser 602 for our kick drum. And then we
Nice.
had a Shure kit, and I believe we had a Behringer kit. That or it was a Sennheiser kit. I see the Shure one right here. Or I don't. Where'd the picture go? I just saw it, but we had the Shure kit, which came with a beta microphone, I believe, for the kick drum mic, and then I want to say it was a Neumann KM128 was what we used for overhead
Mhm.
mics. Let me make sure I got that right. KM184. That's crazy that I remember all these numbers this many years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used Neumann KM184s. I'll show you what this looked like.
Neumann's. I was
Neumann's.
in college. I was blessed enough to be able to use a Neumann U87.
Ooh, I think we actually might have had one of those. A U87, you said?
Yeah, U87.
We did have one of those.
Yeah, kind of like the flagship microphone from Neumann.
This, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, we got one when I was on the way out the door.
such a good microphone.
Uh,
I want one.
I like mics like this.
They're nice.
They're great vocal
They're
mics.
really fucking nice.
Just don't ever record a
They're-
metal singer with them.
I
Condensers are way too loud for that. But I love those.
mean, I scream into my condenser.
I feel like that's so difficult to do with all the uplift from the phantom power that's being in it or being powered into it.
Eh.
I guess if you set the
I've
gain
tried
correctly.
screaming into my beta here,
Yeah.
and the sound difference is just too much for me to like.
It's like more low end heavy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like I try to EQ it. I try to set the dynamics just right, but like it just, I don't know. It's still,
It's hard to get that
it's
crispy
obvious
high
to
end.
me.
Yeah.
And when it's obvious to me, I just didn't like it. So I was like, you know what? I'll just deal with the clipping.
I've recorded guitar with this mic, which is crazy that I was able to do that. Because this mic is like, it's USB, so it's technically condenser in nature, but it's not very good at recording instruments, and somehow it worked out fine. This is the tube mic that we were using. We were using a Telefunken. I don't remember the exact model, but I know it was expensive. I want to say it was probably over $1,500,
Damn.
perhaps. Let me see if I can find it. But Telefunken, I believe, is known for making tube mics. Like, that's like their specialty, I believe. I don't remember the model, but yeah, they are all like tube-shaped mics that are. They have to be powered for up to 30 minutes to warm up.
Mm-hmm.
But what was it? We had a few RE20s, and then I think we had two, and then we had an RE320, which is the black version of it they use for kick drum. It's like it has a smaller frequency range, farther towards the low end. Yeah, that's all I remember. That's really all I remember. We had a ton of SM58s. We had a few SM57s for like guitars and drums. And we had a couple of the beta ones. But God, you know how many times we had to screw off the ball on the 58s to clean them?
I can't even tell you the last time I did that.
We would also take off the ball and hammer it out. Like, we'd buff it out if it was too dented.
Nice. I should probably do that, to be honest. Mine's all dented.
We
like that. Now that I'm looking at it, yeah, there's some crap in there.
It's better to just not
I need
look.
to clean this microphone.
I think if it's your mic, it's generally okay if you're just chill with that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember the last time I cleaned this thing, and it's been my microphone since 2007.
Oh no. There's some gunk in there older than most kids.
Yeah.
Gunk in there older than some of the voting
probably
population.
Older than you.
Yeah, gunk in
when
there
were you
older than
born?
the voting population. 2014.
Ah,
No, I was born in 2002.
that makes a lot more sense than 2014.
I used to joke like that, and I'm like, yeah, I was making YouTube videos in the conceptual realm. -1. But this was fun. I haven't been able to talk shop in a long time about audio stuff.
Yeah, same.
This is a lot of fun. Maybe I can get in that studio and like take pictures and stuff to show. The only pictures I have are of me holding earpieces that we had to RMA because they had the wrong connector on the end of them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to see like a desk and my hand from like 5 years ago, it's a sick picture.
You got my number. You can text it to me.
But yeah, maybe if I can ever go back, I'll take pics, and I'll let you know if we can get access to that studio space, because it sounds like a fun idea. Cool. One big round table podcast. But all right, thanks for joining me. Is there anything you want to plug?
Find me on Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music, wherever you stream music. My name is Westley Rose. I've been making independent music since 2018. I've been making music a lot longer than that. But yeah, search for me. Listen to my shit.
and I'll link it in the description as well.
Thank you. I have a new EP coming. I don't know when, but it's coming.
I'll make sure I plug it when it's coming out.
I don't even know what the title is going to be yet. I have some working titles.
Hey, you know, singular palm trees on the table. Singular palm trees on the table.
I need to get your mixing ideas before get your input on this album before I release it.
I'll do it. Free consulting fee.
Hey, I'll DM for you. I'll DM some games for you.
You'll pay me an exposure.
Yeah.
All right, you can find this
D&D dungeon. I'll be your dungeon master for you.
Oh man, you're already doing that.
Yeah.
All
retroactively.
Right, yeah, you're just paying me up front.
Yeah.
All right, well, you can find this podcast on most streaming platforms, Spotify, YouTube Music, all that stuff, and on Patreon. Please support this podcast.
Give this man your money.
You can give me up to $1.
Give him $1.
Give me $1 if you want. I think the role is called Fed.
Give me up, the angel.
I think the dollar.
Ah.
I think for $1 a day. I think the dollar tier is called Fed.
Fed?
I think you would be like a federal agent.
Or just like, I have been fed for today.
That could work too, yeah. All right, thanks for watching. Go check out his stuff. We will see you next Friday. Or I will. He might see you next Friday.
I might. Tell me when.
He'll be at your
I'm
window. All right. Remember those murders I mentioned at the beginning of the episode? All right. Peace.